I just having my coffee. Did you eat all your food? I'm gonna go look. I'm gonna go see. Let me see. Oh, you're too full? You don't want to eat no more? Let me go see. I'm gonna go look. I'm gonna go look. Oh, wow. What a big boy. Oh, wow. He ate it all. Good job. Big boy. Big boy, you did a good job. Yeah. You ate all your breakfast, huh? Good job. Mommy's gonna look at the paper. So, yeah. Just blah, 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 blah. What do you think about my hair? You like it? I just dyed it. So I figure I'd look at my paper and tell you guys what's going on in the Pacific Northwest. This is the Willamette Weekly. This is for uh, 12/23/2020. I think this is like once a week. Yeah. It's the free paper. What are you doing? All the treats are gone. We don't have no more treats. We have to wait until Mommy has money to buy you treats. I don't have no more. I'm sorry. So, how 2020 has changed us. Meet 20 of Portland's people and places that will never be the same. But you know, they had, this is where all the Black Lives Matter protests and stuff went on. And I mean, not all of them. Obviously they went on across the country, but like some hardcore stuff went down here in Portland. What are you doing? Put this over here. Oh, that's just too much. Okay, let's see. What we learned from reading this week's paper. A North Mississippi Avenue homeowner says the red house occupiers doused rubber tires with gasoline in anticipation of police. So, I guess what happened was the cops and the county or whatever were trying to evict a family from a house, and I guess they had been in that house for a really long time, and they just decided, because right now the government is, a lot of fucked up shit is happening, and they're trying to make everybody poor. What they want is they want all of America living in a tent, working for 2 cents an hour, living in a fucking bread line. That's what they want. They want to cull you with the inoculations that they're going to give you to get your ass sick. So, the red houses, they tried to evict a family, and the protesters came out and they literally took over the whole neighborhood and chased the cops out, threw Molotov cocktails at them, fucking, like, literally chased them out and occupied the whole area so that the family couldn't be evicted. A Portland fabric store sold 1 million yards of elastic for making cloth face masks. Swimming in the Willamette River will not kill or mutilate you most of the time. So this is dialogue. He don't scratch anymore until I do a video, and I feel like I'm not the only person in the world who goes through this shit. Odin, stop. Hours, the whole day he won't scratch. I push play and start talking at the phone, and all of a sudden, okay. Feline Gaylord via Facebook. We are asking so much from our healthcare workers. As a recent COVID patient myself, my case was mild, but the fear was ever present. This is dialogue. This is last week. Willamette Weekly published three Portland nurses' accounts of working through the worst week of the pandemic. All three healthcare workers, Heather Rose, I'm not going to say this right, Christine Olsgaard, and Erin Boney, described tragic scenes at overtaxed hospitals, frightened patients, and emotional exhaustion. The article was sparked by a letter Rose wrote to Willamette Weekly, in which she wrote of feeling shaken by a different sort of suffering, working in the Legacy Health's intensive care unit, and pleaded for Americans to take COVID-19 precautions seriously. And here's what our readers had to say. Amanda Ellis via Facebook. Mine wasn't mild. I suspect it is common, as those who were as sick as I was died. I think that's a typo. They just can't speak now. How quickly things changed with the virus. How I went from not feeling so good to drowning. Then my fear started because I didn't have time to say goodbyes, even if I could have spoken. How the fear doesn't really stop. Watching my life tick away with post-COVID issues. The concern and fatigue of the healthcare workers should matter. I survived. If this is actually a survival, I didn't have to watch myself decline and carry that fear too. That might have been too much. P. Miller via wweek.com. A little off point here, but not far. Whenever I read these death toll comparisons to 9/11, I can't help but think that this is more on the nose than is understood or appreciated. Our situation today is the resultant culmination of a mass mental illness that infected America on the very date 2 decades ago. It led America directly to this place, for it was 9/11 that fertilized an era of conspiracy theories, a generation consumed with brain-rotting lies, a rampant distrust of reality that led to the Trump presidency, to complete COVID denial, to an utterly vicious incivility, and that's what America is now. These are like things that people are saying, like, what they think about. Fred and Joan Booth via wweekly.com. It is only 6 more months or so, and we will be able to live normally. Patience, people, is what is needed now to avoid overwhelming the healthcare workers. Better to wait until next season for holiday celebrations. How to cut traffic deaths. Thank you for highlighting Portland's record-breaking traffic fatalities. The big number, WW, December 16th, 2020. WW means Willamette Weekly. That's the name of the newspaper. There are two glaring reasons for this. First, Portland's Vision Zero is an acknowledged failure due to the fact that it does not include an enforcement component of any kind. Second, with Portland's police bureau sorely understaffed by national standards, less than one-half the number of sworn officers needed per capita, and the city council refusing to fully staff it, little attention is given to the rampant speeders along our streets. Now that the few traffic division officers we have are being switched to patrols, enforcement of traffic rules will suffer. Recently defeated Portland Bureau of Transportation Commissioner Iduali can squawk all she wants about speed recording cameras, but that's not going to help the pedestrians run down on the crosswalks. Fully staffing the PPB is the solution. Dr. No. If the spit mask doesn't work for CS gas, why do geniuses think the mask works for COVID-19? I have tested the masks personally as a professional combat team leader. A spit mask has never worked for biological agents like COVID-19. Fools, never. I think they're talking about the plastic masks that people wear that just fully cover their face. I get the distinct impression that we're not actually looking for an answer, Steve. Nonetheless, I'm going to take advantage of this rare opportunity to be the bigger person. Quote, "It's not often I meet someone even more petty and vindictive than myself," and provide one. The most obvious reason to believe masks are useful is the fact that doctors, nurses, and other biological agent wranglers have been wearing them for over 150 years. It's the kind of sketch to think they've been doing it just to piss you off. I sense, however, that this won't convince you. You've seen with your own eyes that masks aren't effective against droplets of CS. That's tear gas for you civilians. So why should they be effective against droplets of coronavirus-infected sputum?
I thought you were on the phone.
No, I'm reading. I'm making a reading video. I'm reading the newspaper. Yeah. I did it right this time. Setting aside the somewhat glaring fact that the primary target of tear gas is your eyes, which masks don't cover, you have a point. Paper and cloth masks let enough CS through that they're not much help in a tear gas attack. However, no one so far has started throwing exploding canisters of pure coronavirus into crowds of people. I won't bore you with the math, but the number of people who would have to sneeze on you all at once to equal the droplet concentration you experience downwind of one CS canister could populate a small city. A mask just needs to stop most of the big drops, both inbound and outbound, which is where the bulk of the virus is. That's sufficient to reduce the chance of transmission between masked people by 2/3 compared to unmasked folks, according to the data from the American Society of Microbiology. Think of it this way. As a gun enthusiast, you didn't say so, but I've got a feeling you're well aware that a Kevlar vest doesn't guarantee you won't be killed by gunfire. But when a firefight erupts at the family Christmas dinner, it's a lot better than nothing. What do you guys think about the vaccine? Who gets shot by police? Before George Floyd's death, black Portlanders were killed by cops at a disproportionate rate. Between 2004 and 2018, 1/4 of all people fatally shot by officers of the Portland Police Bureau were black, according to an April 2020 report by OIR Group, an outside consultant that reviews and critiques police departments. 7 of 28 people killed by police during those years were black. Just 5.8% of Portlanders identified as black in July 2019. The disproportionate number of black victims reported at the time took on a new weight amid a racial justice movement sparked a month later after George Floyd, a black man, was killed by Minneapolis police. It became the center of a summer of protests and unrest in Portland. Ryan Pittaway, a black assistant professor of public health of Portland State University, says disproportionate police arrests, traffic stops, and the use of force against black people all contribute to the disparate shootings because they increase police contact with black citizens. There's something racist and problematic in there, Pittaway says. In the sequence of events that leads up to a black person being shot by police, there has to be an interaction. We have an entire policing system that's designed to interact more on black bodies than for white bodies. That's where we have to start. State Senator Lou Frederick says the disparities are something the white community started paying attention to this year, while black people have dealt with them for decades. What happened this summer was not new for the black community. It was a new item for the white community, he says. Pittaway says the only solution is what protesters called for all summer: defund the police. What was revealed about the protests this year is more white people are waking up to the reality that this isn't just individuals, Pittaway says. The entire thing is problematic. We need to start thinking about how we can reimagine the entire apparatus. This is about the Red House. This is what I was saying in the beginning about how people stopped the eviction of a family. The occupation next door. A neighbor describes what happened when law enforcement stopped responding to an armed encampment. A few recent events in Portland have drawn as much national attention as the Red House eviction defense. The armed occupation of 3 blocks of North Mississippi Avenue interrupted the foreclosure seizure of the Red House, the home of the Kinneys, a black and indigenous family facing eviction during winter amid the pandemic. The standoff has become a flashpoint of gentrification, racial inequity, and radical activism in Portland. The occupiers initially arrived in the neighborhood in early September, but the occupation grew significantly in size and energy after Multnomah County Sheriff's deputies and Portland police officers, following a court order, arrived in the early morning hours of December 8th to evict the Kinneys. Nobody had as close a view of the occupation as a man living near the Red House. The neighbor reached out to WW to respond to our account of the eviction defense beyond the barricades, December 16th, 2020. He asked not to be identified out of fear of political reprisal, but WW independently confirmed he lives less than a block from the encampment. Inside the blockades, but WW independently confirmed that he lives less than a block from the encampment. Inside, the blockades used to seal off neighborhood streets from police. This is his story, as told by WW reporter Tess Risky. Between 7 and 9 a.m. on December 8th, large crowds of individuals started to build. After they got the news about the eviction, and it grew and grew, the police were slowly drawing down. The crowd came through the backyard of an adjacent house where they were throwing bottles and rocks and bricks and paint balloons at the police and screaming at them and threatening them about the eviction. Police backed down the hill because they were outnumbered by the number of protesters. They pushed the police down into the street, down by the Mississippi Triangle, and then they surrounded them. I thought they were going to beat the cops in the street, and it was one of the scariest things I've ever seen in real life. I had never seen anything like that in America. At that moment, I was like, this is completely spun out of control, and this is really dangerous. Then the large group went back to the red house, and more people came in, and they began to rip down the fences on the property. They went inside the house themselves and started pulling stuff out to build the barricades. They started carrying out refrigerators and washers and dryers. They blocked the alleys, and they blocked the side street of my house. They wouldn't allow us to move our cars because they had fully barricaded us in. They said they had basically claimed the area and that we weren't able to leave. On Saturday last week, an individual went around and broke the Ring camera off the people's front doors and their doorbells with a crowbar. It was just a huge raging party occupation. Giant bonfires on the hill, bonfires everywhere in the streets. They built the barricades. They had weapons behind it. They had bottles and rocks and Molotov cocktails and all that stuff. They had sentries essentially, that are posted up there. They had an individual with an assault rifle positioned right next to our driveway. They had people regularly back at their station, but they also patrol around the block with weapons and tactical gear and bulletproof vests. They watch us, you know, and they're regularly standing around as we move in and out of our backyard. I could go out front on foot, but there were several people outside, and they were armed, and they would watch us. They didn't follow us around the block, and they were very suspicious that they were coordinated, that we were coordinating with the police. Like I said, they had guns up front too, in addition to everyone inside the zone. Generally, they didn't say much to us. They knew we weren't happy with that they were there, but basically we had kind of cut a deal with them that they needed to keep some distance from our property and not trespass to create fire risks and hazards next to it. And in exchange, we were leaving them alone. That was the kind of truce that we had. Everyone thought the cops were going to come down, so they were preparing for that. The side of my house was lined with tires and wood, and they were soaking it in gasoline and lighter fluid in anticipation of that. When the police would come, they were going to light it on fire and create a big flaming barricade to prevent them from coming in. They had bonfires on and adjacent to our property next to the gasoline-soaked tires. We were asking them to put it out, and they refused to do so and would yell at us. Then they got really hostile and told me to fuck off and that we were part of the problem, or that we were just another gentrifier. We were scared, and that they were going to attack us in our own house. If you had a problem, or you were scared for your safety, or that you were going to be attacked, you had to negotiate with the individuals or the leaders themselves, because the police would not come out proactively because of concerns about security and the situation escalating. If you wanted them to stop, you had to go down and negotiate with them by yourself. There's this notion that the neighbors generally were happy about this. See that? My roof started leaking. I had to pull the fucking skylight down. So there's this notion that the neighbors generally were happy about this, or thought it was cool, or that we were okay with it. Everyone who was directly surrounded by this was really, really scared and nervous, and people kept their mouths shut because they were worried about their safety and protecting their homes. I was pretty impressed with actually how quickly it all came down, but everything is still here. Everything's still trashed. Everything's still covered in graffiti. Everything's a mess. My house, my sidewalk, everything's covered in garbage now. If I'd known about this, I would have done what works in the city. I would have gone and found Mayor Ted Wheeler in person and screamed at him until he did something about it. Because that's the message that's being sent to people as a result of this. If you want the city to do things, you either have to get a bunch of guns and take over a neighborhood and threaten violence, or you have to go find Wheeler in real life, or Commissioner Dan Ryan, or whoever else, and you surround their home and you scream at them and harass them until they give you what you want. Otherwise, they hide from you. It's incredibly disappointing and unfortunate that this is what the city's decision making has come to. So, I don't know. What do you think about that? I think that it is. It's you know, in a city like this, probably in every city, probably in your city too, what can you do? I mean, right now, they're trying to steal people's homes. They're taking whole families. You know, in certain part of the countries, right now, it's snowing. They don't give two shits about you or anybody. You have no money. You have no job. They're not going to give you any money. They're not going to do anything for you, but they will come to your house at 6 o'clock in the morning and rip you and your fucking 2-month-old baby in your arms fucking screaming out into the cold and be like, get. You know, they can't. That is unhuman. And so I completely understand where this came from. And I completely understand sometimes it's getting to the point where people feel like they do need to come around and throw Molotov cocktails at the cops and carry guns, because if you don't stop these people from ripping your life apart, that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna tear you to pieces. They're gonna take your whole home. They're gonna take everything you've ever loved and worked for, and they're gonna throw it in the trash and kick you out onto the curb to be raped and molested by the tweakers all night. And they don't care. And so I can see why people came and why people have been forcing the cops back and throwing Molotovs at them and starting fires and occupying. And it really does suck for the people who live near these things, you know, because they are scared, but people are angry. And, you know, a lot of things need to change. We don't even have a government. This isn't a government. This is just a bunch of tyrannical lizards trying to make sure that you're living in a tent. I'm going to do a video soon. I'm going to take you guys to downtown Portland, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. A lot of windows are boarded up. There's graffiti everywhere. A lot of stores are shutting down. And, you know, now they're talking about they want to give everybody $600 in coronavirus, whatever. And it's, you know, I think that what they want is they want just communities of people living in tents where everybody is dependent on the government to provide them with their daily ration of bread and water, and they have to go work their 20-hour shifts for $1 an hour, and this is what the government wants. And so standoffs like this need to happen. And it is scary for the neighbors. And it, you know, but things like this need to happen. People need to understand that you cannot do this to people. You know, people need to come out with their guns and push the police back, because they're trying to push out a family who's lived in the house for a very long time, and they don't care. They will push in the Pacific Northwest. In the Pacific Northwest, you'll get a little bit of snow, but it's mostly rain. Rain. It rains for 6 months out of the year. It makes for beautiful summers and springs. But it's fucking raining. Rain, mold. Everything you love can easily be lost. I'm constantly fighting moisture and mold. You know, I don't live in a house. I don't have electricity or running water. And inside of a camper like this, when you breathe, there's condensation is just everywhere. You see, I just had to pull that thing down because it started leaking. Water started pouring out of this thing the other day, and it's really, really, really difficult. And you're gonna just, at a time, people have nothing right now. People are scared. There's a lot of terrible things happening. And I can see both sides of this. I can see why people are grabbing their guns and pushing the cops back, because the cops don't care. How about if we come to your house and push you out? You know, how about if a bunch of us grab our guns and find where you live and evict you from your home? And they don't understand that, because they're just doing their jobs. But when that shit happens, when we start coming around and start evicting you from your home and your life and taking your shit away from you, then you're going to understand. You know what I mean? And they don't. They don't understand. But I do. I do understand. Let's see. Special deliveries. The 10 most read stories of 2020. Don't mess with Portland's mail. Of everything that happened this year, the removal of mailboxes around the city proved the last straw for WW readers. The most viewed story of 2020 on WWeek.com confirmed that U.S. Postal Service has removed blue boxes all over the city on the same day that President Donald Trump said that he was intentionally undermining the post office and mail-in ballots. Number 1, August 13th. U.S. Postal Service confirms it has removed mailboxes in Portland and in Eugene. 1,038,880 views. A few months before Election Day, a photo surfaced on social media depicting a truck with a bed full of U.S. Postal Service boxes. WW confirmed that the Postal Service had removed boxes in Eugene and Portland and intended to haul away more. A spokesperson of USPS told WW the boxes were being removed due to declining mail volume, but the removals caused an outpouring of concern from Portland citizens on that same day. Caused an outpouring of concern from Portland citizens. On that same day, President Donald Trump said that he was intentionally undermining USPS to make it more difficult to vote by mail. March 17th. A Portland strip club has started a meal delivery service where dancers bring food directly to your door. That's awesome. Pandemic or not, Portlanders weren't going to go even a week without strip clubs. Even before Governor Kate Brown issued her statewide stay-at-home order, Southeast's Lucky Devil Lounge launched Boober Eats, where the club's dancers delivered food orders. Of course, there were plenty of other things to worry about in 2022. Our stories that drew the most traffic range from fire winds to stay-at-home orders, federal agents policing Portland protests, to Facebook despoiling a small town in the Oregon coast. Despoiling, I don't know what that means. It's a more apocalyptic list than our most read stories of 2019, when Portlanders' biggest concern was running out of kale during a snowstorm. But revisiting these stories serves as a reminder that just making it through 2020 was a feat. We all deserve to be at least a little proud of that. September 16th. Portland protesters say their lives were upended by the posting of their mugshots in a conservative Twitter account. Sophie Peel. There's my crows. During a turbulent summer of protests, conservative journalist Andy Ngo, began posting mugshots of left-wing demonstrators on his Twitter page. WW spoke to 3 Portlanders who claimed that to have been threatened and harassed after Ngo posted their mugshots on social media. August 19th, Mark Zuckerberg is despoiling a tiny coastal village in Oregon's national treasures. The state invited him. Last spring, a Facebook drilling operation off the coast left Why would Facebook be drilling? That doesn't make any sense to me. Why would Facebook be drilling? Last spring, a Facebook drilling operation off the Oregon coast left drilling machinery and thousands of gallons of drilling fluid underneath the ocean. The accident marked a disastrous ending to a project that residents of Terra del Mar, an unincorporated town where a Facebook subsidiary built an industrial staging lot, resisted every step of the way. I would like to know why Facebook is drilling. Like, I'm so confused about that. I mean, isn't Facebook like a place where you like post stupid memes and talk to your friends on the internet? Isn't it a web thing? Not like a drilling and leaving shit in the ocean? That don't make no sense. Why would Facebook be drilling? Oh, my crows are here. August 21st, major downtown property owner urges city council to address lawlessness that you are endorsing downtown. Nigel Jacques. They're mad. They want their peanuts. Hold on, I gotta go give them their peanuts. I forgot I can't give them their peanuts here. I have to go somewhere else. July 19th. In further signs of tension, Portland Fire and Rescue bans federal agents and Portland cops from using its stations. Nigel Jacques. Stop. He's jealous of my crows and he gets all pissed when they come around. You need to learn how to be nice to my birds. No. After months of nightly protests, Greg Goodman, whose family is one of Portland's largest landowners, sent an email to Mayor Ted Wheeler calling for the city council to rein in the lawlessness downtown. Goodman's letter claimed that the streets of Portland were full of broken glass, needles, and litter. It is. And that protesters engage in vandalism and don't care about George Floyd. Yeah, there's something about, like, yeah, the protests and all these things, they need to be happening because we need to show the police and we need to show the government that you're not our fucking boss. You can't go around stealing from us just because you have a fucking badge. But on the other side, there's no need to go around breaking windows. I mean, maybe the windows of banks, but there's no reason to go around breaking the windows of small coffee shops, mom and pop shops. Throwing the needles are a whole nother story because this place is disgusting with needles and broken glass, and it is ridiculous. Like, I think I've said before, my dog is 2, he's about 3, and he's already had 4 major cuts on his foot, and it's so hard to just take a walk. You can't like look at something when you're taking a walk. You have to like constantly just be looking down, focused, because at any time there could be a dirty needle, a pile of human shit, or some broken fucking glass that he could step in and get all fucked up. So it's not like a nice walk. It's like a stressed out fucking thing that you're just making sure that, you know, and it's pretty fucking disgusting. So that is something that needs to be addressed. So I guess that's this 42-minute video. So maybe I'll make another one. I'll start reading some magazines if you guys like that. I'll show you some pictures. And, so if you guys like it, I'll do it again. Alright.